Breaking news, Justin Baldoni has seemingly lost his legal war with Blake Lively. What's this mean? We have Christopher Melcher here to break it down.
Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm It's Kim, and I am joined by Christopher Melcher, attorney at law, and Andy, who is currently on the road, getting ready to go to the airport.
I literally took 2 weeks off to go with my family and pre-banked a bunch of content that now might all be relevant because, yes, guys, the news just dropped that all his charges have been dismissed. Look, I'm shocked, guys. We're all shocked. I'm still processing, but I'm so glad because we have Christopher who was able to use his amazing legal brain to try to scan the best of what he can, sort of give us an insight. Overall, let's rip the Band-Aid off, Chris. This is bad news, ultimately, right? It's not over. It's not. There's still potential, but this is bad news for Team Justin. No.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not unexpected. Okay. So we'll kind of work through why I say that. But yeah, very bad outcome for him. He's not completely done at the trial court level. So we'll have another chance to kind of help on a couple of the claims that he's making. But a lot of those have been gutted and are done and buried, except he could try to appeal. So we'll work through each one here. But this is devastating, I would say, for him.
Ooh, I mean, but you said this was expected because the reality is just because he could be telling the truth still, which we all believe. Blake Lively's claims could be false. The problem is he had to make a claim, right? He has to have a claim that defamation and things, and that's really what the issue is here. It's not that Justin did the things Blake did. It's that his case doesn't hold up given the rules of the law. Can you explain that a little bit better than I did?
Sure. So there's two basic things that he's complaining about. One, he says, is that the movie was stolen from him, and that his rights, his economic rights with respect to that film, were taken from him. Then the other type of claim he's making is saying that she and others had said bad things about him, which caused him damages like defamation. So it's that second part that got gutted. And the reason is like in the United States, we have strong First Amendment protections for speech. And so we can go and complain and saying, hey, our employer or coworker or whatever did these horrible things to us. And if we're bringing it to light, particularly if the person's a public figure, there are strong protections against that, against being sued for it. Okay. And so normally any kind of claim that you see in court where it says this person said something bad about me is going to be subject to being stricken and dismissed because of this First Amendment protections. And when we look back at the reasons, if let's say you were protesting against some huge corporation or some very powerful person, and you've done your investigation and you want to publish it on social media or your blog or whatever, if you could get sued successfully, that person, you would be wiped out. No small journalist or independent journalist or even small newspaper would ever take on a big corporation or a powerful individual because they would literally get wiped out in court every time they said something, even if it was true. So there are strong protections in the law to saying if we're saying something in a public forum or about a public figure or about something really important like these issues of SA and stuff like that, and then there are protections about that, and that these cases can be dismissed quickly, and the person who brought the suit can be subject to paying all the attorney's fees for the person that they sued. Okay, so these are these anti-SLAPP things or litigation privilege you can look up. If you remember in Depp Heard, the reason why he sued in Virginia is he would have absolutely lost in California or New York. If he would have sued Amber Heard for the op-ed in California, he would absolutely got thrown out of court and had to pay Amber's attorney's fees. He sued in Virginia because at that time they didn't have the anti-SLAPP law in the fact that they, I think, changed later. So there's like one place he could actually be heard. So that's the kind of laws that Blake Lively and the others, Reynolds and Sloan, have invoked successfully in getting this judge to saying, look, I mean, even if everything you're saying is true, okay, and that's the standard, even if everything that the Wayfarer parties said is true in their complaint, they can't sue Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Sloan for these out-of-court, allegedly defamatory statements because of these strong First Amendment protections. So that's gutting that whole case and potentially subjecting Justin and the Wayfarer parties to paying all the attorney's fees for so far, which is going to be an enormous amount of fees. What's left open is really two claims. One is saying against the New York Times, they promised him, or he's saying he was promised that he would have until like noon to provide his input to the story that they were going to run about him, and they went early with the story. So he's saying, hey, that kind of breached and implied a contract that we had. The judge is saying, you can try again, Justin, allege that better. The second thing the judge is saying is that this thing about stealing the movie and interfering with his contractual relationships in economic advantage, the judge said you can try and tune that up and come back to court. Otherwise, the case appears to be gutted and his only remedies to be going on appeal, which is going to be a very long and uncertain process.
So I have a couple questions, and thank you for the honest breakdown. And people are obviously going to take it as they other ways potentially or hopeful or more aggressively against Justin. But reiterating, this doesn't mean he did the things Blake said, right? So that comes to my next question of, does Blake just dismiss this? Knowing her and how their tactics are, I mean, maybe we all missed this obvious thing coming, and that's really what they always knew. Like, let's just wait because there really is no case. There is no case, even though you may be a bitch and all these things. It doesn't matter. That's not what this case is about. And they were just waiting for someone to sort of do it. Do you think now legally, is there a version of this where she now just says, you know what, for the betterment of my family, I'm dropping the suit. The judge has proven his point, and then there's not even a way for us to prove in court whether he did those things? What do you think Blake's going to do next? Or do you think she's obligated to see this through?
Well, I kind of figured they would let things die down and then walk away with some kind of release and each of them claiming victory, because this is a bloodbath. I mean, the attorney's fees are got to be horrendous. The damage to their reputations is horrendous. And, you know, we saw prior to this, Blake suffering a defeat where she did not want to release her mental health records, and while still trying to make a claim for severe emotional distress, and the judge said, no, you can't have it both ways. You're not going to release the records. And she dismissed her claim for severe intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress. And the judge said, well, I'm going to exclude the evidence of emotional distress, which is a huge component of her claim. So she also got gutted. Both sides have been gutted. And at this point then do they then walk away mortally wounded, or do they keep screwing with this thing? We'll just have to see.
Right. There's another theory. I've seen it out there. I don't subscribe to it. People are gonna, that this Judge Lyman is a brother of a Hollywood director. And could he have been, is there some corruption that could have happened? I mean, I know where you stand. You don't believe that it happens, but just people who are going to demand say that, what is your response?
Well, I don't know anything about any connections like that, but like I say, this is predictable. This is what's supposed to happen. And when somebody gets sued for making statements in a complaint of SA or workplace harassment, they are basically insulated from being sued under California and New York law for those things, unless they establish that it's done knowingly false, so it has to be maliciously done. So they knew that it was done, they knew that it was false, or they acted with reckless disregard for the truth. And that's a very high standard to establish. And that's one question. I haven't been able to work through the whole 132 pages of this opinion because, why couldn't he get to a jury trial on the maliciousness claim? But the judge, right, in this passage that I read, was saying there is nothing else that Justin and the Wayfarer parties can claim or type up in their computer here to revive this claim, that everything they said, again, even if true, is never going to get to the legal standard needed to be able to sue for these out of court statements. That's the way the judge saw it. He's not going to change his mind, so it could go to a court of appeal, and if the court of appeal thinks it's wrong, then they'll revive the case, but that's going to be 2 years from now.
Yeah, it's hard to not accept the corruption angle, because I agree. Why doesn't he get his day in court with the maliciousness? Because all these claims are, she knew they were false, in my opinion. This is shocking. Kim, I know we're running out of time. Do you have any questions for him before we go?
I think realistically, Christopher, I did want to ask, what do you think the likelihood is now of this going to trial? Because as you said, both sides have now taken major hits, right? Justin's claim's been dismissed. The claim of emotional distress is now, there's a lot of, stars beside it now that we have to look at. What do you think is the probability that we're going to end up at trial?
I don't see any realistic probability this thing's going to go to trial. Both sides have suffered major setbacks. They're going to fight about these attorney's fees here, over the litigation that's happened so far. There's going to be appeals on at least one or maybe both sides. And so I think it's just they did their sparring, and they probably better off walking away is kind of how my sense of it, because this is not going to resolve anytime quick with an appeal now that he would have to take to put his case back on track.
Oh my gosh, this is definitely, I think we all need a day or two to sink this in. And full disclosure, I had the trailer to our doc. The doc's still happening, don't get me wrong. There's a story, there's almost even now a bigger story to tell because of our doc, Kim. But I got to debate whether the edit I already put together that I was about to drop for you guys in a couple of weeks is still relevant, or if we need to adjust. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, because I feel like I have to address this. Maybe we don't. Stay tuned. I don't know. We had some plans for you. The plans always shift here on Popcorn Planet. You can see me. I'm on the way to the airport, breaking the news. Christopher Melcher dropped what he's doing. I appreciate you, Chris. We will keep you privy to this. I will probably be patching back in with Kim to give you updates as they happen, and we get more experts to break this down, because this is a massive update that I want to make sure you guys got directly from us as soon as we got it. We will be going to the doc and figuring out what else there is to report, but this is still fresh for all of us, and I'm in shock a little bit, to be honest. Even though expected, Chris, I figured the maliciousness was enough to get his day in court and to keep this going. So it's a big one. So stay tuned, guys. I know it's a lot for some of you. You're probably very bummed. Stay tuned. It doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean Blake was right. She's going to spin it that way in the press. It's already happening. So that's clearly what she's going to do. But no comment yet from Justin's team, from Friedman. So stay tuned. Maybe they will pull a rabbit out of his hat. Maybe Taylor Swift will finally come forward and actually expose Blake. We shall see. A lot more can still happen. So thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and stay tuned here on Popcorn Planet.